We're here to call for our continuing participation in CDBG grant programs. For more than 40 years, Ossining municipalities and nonprofits have done so much good with this money. We've been able to complete significant capital projects in our community. Our streetscape here in Ossining is one of them. We've been able to improve quality of life, increase economic redevelopment of our communities, increase the quality of life and recreational facilities, and support our nonprofits in very, very, very real ways that you'll hear about. It's really imperative that the county finds a way to work collaboratively with the federal government in order to continue the stream of funding that will also protect our taxpayers. At the Board of Legislators, we've taken a very active role in working with the HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, and the monitor, Jim Johnson, in order to unblock the logjam that we currently have with regards to the housing settlement that is stopping CDBG money from coming into Westchester County for our municipalities and our nonprofits. We're trying to make sure that we don't lose any more opportunities for funding that are in the current cycle that go through this year. And it's very important that we continue to participate in the program. The county executive has sent a letter to all municipalities and nonprofits saying that he believes that the county should not move forward with the CDBG program. If we pull out, we'll be the only county in the United States who has pulled out of CDBG money. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing because, of course, we all pay in to CDBG programs and other federal programs through our federal taxes. So to say that we are not going to recoup what is rightfully ours here in Westchester, I think is a very, very, very poor decision. The county executive has further compounded this bad decision, in my opinion, by suggesting that we will create our own development block grant program by borrowing money that Westchester County taxpayers will need to repay. So that means we will not only not be able to recoup the money that we've already paid into the federal grant programs, but that we will be responsible for paying a whole other set of monies. $5 million is a tremendous amount of money on the county tax rolls. It represents 1% of our county tax levy. And $5 million, an additional $5 million, if the county executive wishes to borrow $5 million, I think that should be spread around all of our local non-for-profit organizations who could vastly improve the quality of life and the services they provide for their clients and their constituencies. I want to give a chance for my colleagues and our other representatives to speak, so I am going to introduce Legislator Pete Harckham, who's going to talk a little bit about the importance of CDBG grants in his district. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Good morning, everyone. Staying with the Westchester County participation in federal CDBG consortium, it just makes sense. And pulling out of this consortium and setting up our own block grant program makes no sense whatsoever. It's double taxation. As Legislator Borgia said, we would be the only county in America to pull out of the CDBG consortium. And the only requirement for receiving those funds is to abide by fair housing law. That's the only requirement, abide by fair housing law. I want to tell you a little bit about how some of those funds have been used in my district and what the loss of the $12 million over the last 3 years has meant. For instance, Mount Kisco, a village similar to Ossining, and thank you for welcoming us here today, has lost $165,000 in the last 3 years. $100,000 of that was for the Brookside Avenue sidewalk project, and like many other municipalities, they expected to get reimbursed through CDBG funding. They expended local funds to do the project, and now they have a $100,000 hole in their budget. And for a small village like Mount Kisco, that's devastating. Another example in Mount Kisco and all of Northeast Westchester is the Emergency Interfaith Housing Partnership, which is a coalition of religious institutions that during the winter provide emergency shelter to the homeless on cold nights. They have not received funding, and that would have come from the CDBG program. Other funding that we have recovered in past years for Northeast Westchester, Bedford sidewalk projects. In Croton Falls, I was able to get CDBG funding for the municipal well that had been contaminated by radon. So it's not just urban communities that benefit from CDBG, but rural communities like Bedford and North Salem as well. I just want to touch a little bit. I spoke to a not-for-profit housing advocate last night, and I'm sure you'll hear more detail on what this is doing to not-for-profit housing. This person did not want to be here today because they were afraid of reprisals, because they still need to do business with the county. This person was in tears. They have said that the loss of CDBG funding is devastating and that the climate is so poisoned right now that it's impossible to move forward with affordable housing projects in northern Westchester. Give you a few examples. Pre-development and feasibility funding that these local not-for-profits count on has been cut, so they no longer have that funding. Community planning grants is also gone, so now local municipalities cannot engage in local municipal planning, which was the whole goal of the CDBG program. How do you view your community holistically? Rehab of existing property funds have been cut, so there's no money for improving existing affordable housing projects. The lead-safe funding has been cut. No street improvements, landscaping, sidewalks, all of that has been cut. We've used CDBG funding for septics and sewage treatment plants for affordable housing in Northeast Westchester. All of that funding has been gone. So in conclusion, the $71 million that we received from 2002 to 2012 has served Westchester County well. And as I said, the only requirement for receiving these funds is to comply with fair housing law. What kind of a message are we sending? Is that Westchester County will be the only county in the nation to pull out of the CDBG consortium to reserve the right not to comply with fair housing law? That's a sad day. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague from White Plains, Legislator Ben Boykin.
Thank you, Legislator Harckham. I'm pleased to be here in Austin today to talk about the importance of CDBG funding. As has been stated, the county exec's proposal to create his own block grant program with bonds is probably one of the worst ideas I have ever heard from an elected official. Why should our municipalities, many of whom are still on a very tight budget and are struggling, give up federal funds for projects that will benefit our residents and our business owners? This is double taxation at its worst. It is time for Westchester residents and businesses owners to know this important fact, that working with our federal partners to complete the housing settlement will ensure that both our short and long-term goals will be met. It is time to resolve this issue so that our veterans, our seniors, and our young professionals can find affordable housing to live in Westchester County. And if we look back between the years of 2002 and 2010, on average, we received about $6 million each year of CDBG funding. And what was that used for? It was used to prepare the sidewalks that we're standing on right now. It has been used to prepare the open arms awning that's right behind us here today. It has also been used for housing rehabilitation, economic development, parks improvement, infrastructure improvement, neighborhood facilities expansion. It has been used to benefit 40,000 residents in this county, and it has created hundreds and hundreds of jobs. It is time that we go forward, get this funding, and solve this housing crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Assemblywoman Sandy Galef. As many of you know, I started my public service career working for Sandy, and one of the things I learned working in Sandy's office was the importance of working collaboratively together. You don't have to agree with the person across the table from you on every single issue, but when it comes to important issues, you have to find a way to move forward together. So we're delighted to have her as an example to participate in today's press conference. Thank you. Sandy Galef.
Thank you, Catherine. We really do have to be able to work together. I've never seen anything like this ever happen. I remember when we started the Community Block Grant Program many years ago, and we got all of the communities to participate. And I have to tell you, one of the very early assignments was to encourage as many numbers as we could of residents to be part of the program so that we could get more money for Westchester. And yes, down there is the Ossining Community Center. That was one of the earlier recipients to be able to put together a larger community center for all people in this area to be able to use. I'm sure that Bill Hanauer is going to talk about the sidewalks. I go by the railroad station, I say to myself, I'm a Village of Ossining resident, and we're not going to use federal dollars. We had them committed to the sidewalks. Now I'm going to have to pay for it through my own taxes. It's like a personal thing, actually. And it doesn't make sense because we have affordable housing here. Why are we being penalized in a community that has really put together a very good plan? Everybody comes to us. They want state dollars. Everybody comes. They want state dollars. Nobody says, I don't want your state dollars. We know we send a lot of federal dollars to Washington. Moynihan did a study, Senator Moynihan, a long time ago, of all of our money that goes to Washington and we don't get it back. Well, we want it back. We've been getting it back. We need to get it back. And even the communities that you wouldn't think have gotten some back, Briarcliff, actually a number of years ago got community block grant money to do the sidewalks near the senior citizen area, 345 North State Road. They were able to do that so that seniors could walk into the village. So all of our communities have gotten something. And it just seems to me to stop action on something that is so important to communities. And the communities that have done affordable housing, and most communities have done a certain percentage of affordable housing, you know, we just have to cherish this money that comes to us. Maybe we need to explain what affordable housing is. Affordable housing is for the teachers in our schools. Affordable housing might be for the minister of that church. Affordable housing might be the person that works at 2 Church Street for the corrections department. The affordable housing might be for the firefighters and the policemen. The police car just went by. That could be somebody that might need affordable housing. I brought my intern, Kat Purdy, here. Now, she's young. Maybe she will need some affordable housing so she can start out after college to have a home to live in. These are people that we need in our community, and every community needs the people that I'm talking about. So let's clarify really what affordable housing is, and let's get on with it and get our money from the federal government.
Thank you. Mayor Bill Hanauer. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon. On May 7th, our Westchester communities lost, unless some deal can be reached, lost $5.228327 million in federal funding for the fiscal year 2012, which, following the previous reallocation of $7.4 million in 2011 funds, was meant to and succeeded in inflicting significant pain on the communities in Westchester County that can least afford it. These funds are needed by municipalities which serve the very households the settlement is attempting to increase, which serve to construct, to upgrade, and to maintain the infrastructure critical to the provision and to that the least of us will continue to have the highest quality of life for which Westchester is renowned. The refusal of the county executive to abide by the terms of the settlement and HUD's reassignment of funds until he does hurt primarily those communities with significant minority and low-income populations in their mix, and affordable income populations. such as the village of Ossining. We have long depended on CDBG and home grants and other grants to help maintain and improve our aged infrastructure and to build affordable units. The price tag for all of the things that we have done under the CDBG program is $12,144,848. That's so far. Nelson Park improvements. Nelson Park is down a little bit on Spring Street and on Highland Avenue. $17,500 worth of CDBG monies with an equal village match for improvements in the park in 2012 was postponed until now, when the village is using in lieu of parkland funding in 2014. The village has lost in that period on those projects $2,019,500. And the money that we've spent in lieu of having that money to add to ours is $3,346,250. No, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. $33,462,500. This situation cannot continue. The village is experiencing a wonderful renaissance, but that renaissance is being held back by the lack of these funds. It's slower and slower by the lack of these funds. Westchester County must find a way to settle its dispute with HUD, or we will lose not only more federal funding, but our ability to deliver excellent services which lead to the sterling quality of life that we enjoy here in the village and throughout the county of Ossining. I thank you for putting together this event to make it possible for the public throughout Westchester County to understand the importance of this to all of us, not just to this community, but to every community in the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Hanauer. You can see from that very extensive list that there's a lot of economic impacts associated with refusing this money or not being able to have access to this money. That is not only the direct dollar amounts of the CDBG, but is the opportunity cost associated with that. And Ossining, of course, is not the only community in Westchester that's feeling the pinch. We have a statement from Mount Kisco Mayor Michael Sindrich. The village and town of Mount Kisco have lost $165,000 in CDBG funds this cycle as a result of the affordable housing dispute. Punishing municipalities who are in full compliance with the standards set forth by the federal government is fundamentally wrong. Mount Kisco and the other compliant municipalities should be rewarded, not punished. I applaud the Board of Legislators for trying to resolve our dispute. Now, as you know, municipalities are not the only institutions that are impacted by the loss of CDBG funds. So I'd like to invite Lindsay Farrell, the CEO of Open Door Family Medical Center, to talk about how her organization has grown and developed through use of CDBG funds. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And Mayor Hanauer, thank you so much for describing the amount of money and all of the projects that CDBG has supported. And Catherine, thank you so much for your leaderships and the Democratic legislators who get it and want to work in a very collaborative fashion. Nonprofits benefit from CDBG funds. We run very tight operating budgets, and we don't have the ability to throw off enough surplus to be able to support our capital needs. And we've used CDBG over many, many years to assist us in our capital program. So for example, CDBG funds paid for the facade of this building. CDBG funds bought us dental chairs, and we see hundreds of patients every day who need access to good dental care. And dental chairs are very expensive, and it's difficult for an organization like Open Door to outfit a dental suite. Open Door also operates in other CDBG communities, in Mount Kisco, in Portchester, in Sleepy Hollow, and we're also up in Putnam County. But the ability to have these resources is indeed important for nonprofits like Open Door. It amazes me that our leadership in White Plains would make a decision not to obtain these funds. It's completely crazy, particularly in light of the fact that we all pay taxes. We would like to derive the benefit from those taxes at home. And to think that we would create a redundant process by incurring more taxes is even more crazy. And it makes me wonder why leadership would make a decision like that. It's unfortunate, but I'm deeply grateful to the Democratic legislators and the very collaborative approach that they take in addressing community needs. That's why we're speaking out today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Karen Dottori, who is the interim director of IFCA, which is an organization that started to address the housing needs of Ossining about 50 years ago, and is continuing to work collaboratively with every level of government in order to continue to provide vital housing needs in Ossining and other communities. Karen, please join us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity today. As an affordable housing entity in Ossining, there is no question that we've been impacted by loss of federal block grants like CDBG. At a time when poverty rates and homelessness rates are the highest they've been in decades in the United States, the one thing I'd really like to impart is this is not a time to work in isolation. We need all levels of government to work collaboratively. We need to forge public and private sector initiatives to develop innovative, cost-effective, and efficient ways to address the crisis that is affecting not just us here in Ossining, but affecting us all throughout the country. The idea of community development is just that. All boats rise when the community is well taken care of. So that is, I think, the most important message of today. Collaboration is the key. We are not in a position to leave any monies on the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Shawn Cribari from the Ossining Children's Center, another organization that uses its money very wisely to invest in our youngest residents here in Westchester County. Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you, Catherine, and I'd like to thank the Democratic legislators for organizing this event. The Ossining Children's Center provides high-quality child care to families of all income levels, and we have a large portion of our families that receive scholarships from us so that they can afford to have their children in high-quality child care where they're at work. These families are not looking for a handout. They're hard-working families, and they don't want their children to start life at a disadvantage because their parents have to work. We are housed in two charming old Victorian buildings on South Highland Avenue. Victorian buildings need a lot of repair, upkeep, improvements, maintenance, and over the years we have received CDBG funds to accomplish those repairs and improvements to our buildings. I loved what Karen had to say about collaboration. The wonderful thing about the CDBG program is it requires matching funds, and we've been able to get matching funds from private donors when we receive CDBG grants, and so that's a true public-private partnership to accomplish those projects. The other speakers today have spoken very articulately and eloquently about the need for this program, and I don't understand why we would turn down federal money that we have already paid our taxes into so that instead the county would borrow money that we have to pay back. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Shawn. I also have two statements from legislators who could not be here with us. First, from my colleague, Legislator Mary Jane Shimsky. The tough economic times that Westchester's municipalities and nonprofits have faced over the last years have been softened some by federal block grant dollars that pay for projects and programs that may otherwise have been affordable to local taxpayers. Renouncing the block grant program in favor of borrowing that will be saddled upon taxpayers in the future is bad public policy, plain and simple. And from Legislator Alfreda Williams, Chair of the Board of Legislators Community Services Committee, the far-reaching effects of block grant dollars from federal programs help strengthen our communities and pull us together to face challenges ahead. They're contingent on the county's responsibilities to move forward with affordable housing, which is both good governance and smart planning in the future. Abandoning the block grants will end up hurting all of Westchester, not just the communities where the funds are targeted, which I think is very eloquent and well stated. So the good news is that all hope is not lost. We do still have the opportunity to clear up the logjam in the housing settlement, to possibly release the block grants that have been held up for the 2012 and 2013 year, and we absolutely have the opportunity to participate in the next round of funding that will be determined for the next 3 years in this autumn. So we're hoping that we can work collaboratively with all of our nonprofits, with our local municipalities, and collaboratively between the Board of Legislators and the County Executive's Office to make sure that Westchester is receiving the funds that we deserve, that we need, and that improve our economic development, our quality of life, and the public good for all of Westchester County residents. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you. Good job, everybody.
Good job.
Good job.
Well, you weren't kidding, man. That was quite the list.
War and peace.
There's more.